Hi, everybody. It's Jason Davis and Chris Korte, and we're back to talk about the UPSL. Chris, how you feeling?
Fantastic. Just got back from the national finals in Pittsburgh and excited to tell everybody about how it went.
Yeah, Highmark Stadium, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, site of the final. So, Chris, tell us what went down in the spring. I know we had some spectacular goals and a worthy champion.
Yeah, that's true. So it came down to Soda City from South Carolina and Inland Empire from California. Good old East Coast versus West Coast clash. Honestly, some of the best football I've seen. I encourage you guys to check out the highlights. We'll show you a couple clips here, but real back and forth game. Both goalkeepers played at an extremely high level. At the half, Inland was down by a goal. The goalkeeper was keeping them in, making some extraordinary saves. They came out at halftime. They tied it up. But towards the end of the game, Soda City just took it away with a powerful performance.
So Soda City gets themselves that title. They might get something else winning that title, which we'll come to in a second. I know there's a good story, and not just in the final, but in the semifinal. Soda City, spectacular goal, great story. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is actually our finals MVP, player of the weekend, our most valuable player. He actually scored a pretty acrobatic goal. We're going to show you the clip right here. But Lamar Thompson, out of Jamaica, born and raised in Jamaica, came to the U.S. to continue his pro soccer career after some unfortunate injuries and a heart condition. But Lamar's come a long way, and so to see him scoring goals at this level, now qualifying for the U.S. Open Cup, he came to this country to provide for his family. So to see him still living out his dream and scoring worldies like this is just extraordinary to see.
I mean, I think that's a big takeaway here, right? That the UPSL is a place for players like him who need a place to play, who want to continue their connection to the game. And this is the story across the country. Obviously, these guys that are in the finals get more of the spotlight, Chris, but it's not just Lamar; it's all over the place.
Yeah, correct. No, these guys. Listen, I always try to explain this to people. This the UPSL playoffs is one of the hardest things to do. Right, you're traveling so much. It's probably one of the hardest competitions I would say in the entire United States, just because of all the travel and all the different teams and the variety of teams. But all four teams that made it to our spring national finals in Pittsburgh were at an extremely high level, and I would say Soda City emerged as the deserved winners. So congrats to them. Like I said, I mean, everybody played fantastic. Both goalkeepers in the finals were amazing.
So we did. East Coast prevails over West Coast. What does Soda City get in addition to lifting that trophy in Pittsburgh? What's their reward for winning
Yeah,
the spring title?
absolutely. I mean, one of the most exciting parts about the UPSL playoffs is that every spring, the national champion gets awarded a second round U.S. Open Cup playoff berth, so automatic qualification. That's something we have recently started doing, and so to be able to give that to our teams and allow them that has been a huge benefit to our league. You see, guys, a lot of these guys deserve to be in the U.S. Open Cup, and a lot of them do play pretty well at usually advancing past the first or second rounds. And some of these guys even go up to compete against some professional teams, even MLS teams. So a
Yeah.
lot of that is some of the dreams that these semi-pro players have, is to play against professional players like teams from the MLS. So to be able to see that coming and isn't a great thing to see. And I can't wait to see how Soda City performs.
Well, here on this episode, talking UPSL, we get a chance to talk to a guy, an American soccer legend, who, as a coach, led an amateur team into games against pros in the U.S. Open Cup a while back. Here's our conversation with Eric Wynalda.
Well, right now, I was taking up a lot of my time is being an MLS Next director for the local club out here in Las Vegas, LVSA. It's a lot of time. There's there's a lot of talent in Las Vegas, which is the other reason why I've stayed really tuned in because as you guys know, I've always been a big advocate of trying to find the players who haven't been afforded that opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are maybe some of the most surprising things you've noticed as you transition off the field, kind of into these different roles, coaching and so on?
Well, it's just that my passion always stays the same. I mean, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I still love to consume the game. And when you go through maybe the transition that I went through, I left the game fairly early as a player in the early 30s, but always tried to stay in the coaching ranks. When I coached in the NASL, coaching in the UPSL, which I found a profound amount of enjoyment out of. It really was a way not just to stay connected with the game, but to just see the real heartbeat of soccer in this country.
Yeah, amazing. That's a good transition into kind of the U.S. soccer pyramid in general.
Oh, that's complicated.
Keep
it is complicated, but we've done a pretty damn good job of complicating this process ourselves. Major League Soccer wants to see themselves as the focal point. It's once you're in the bubble, you're in the bubble, and the way that these entities, whether that be the USYS organizations or leagues, the UPSL falls certainly into that category of, well, if you're not with us, you're not a part of us, so we're not going to provide opportunity. When you look at where the sport is at the top end, or was perceived as the top end with Major League Soccer, and the rules and the all of the regulatory stuff that makes us have our own belief systems of what the best soccer is in this country. All those things are intertwined, but there's no reason why you can't try to have real conversations with people to try and circumvent that direct line of the way of doing things and create new pathways for kids and for professionals.
Yeah, is that our biggest failure in the U.S. soccer system? You would say is that there's no support.
Well, or willingness to recognize talent, simply because, or the recognition of something else that is happening outside of what you're doing. So it's whether it's U.S. Club in a fight with the state associations because of where we register our players at the youth level and where the best place to register our players is, and if you're in the ECNL or if you're a part of MLS Next. There's this constant battle of the entities or the organizations.
Yeah. Is this level that the UPSL provides, the fourth division semi-pro level, is that important to this pyramid?
Absolutely. I mean, I proved that when I brought 8 of them out to Las Vegas, and now they are still pros. The guys that I had seen participate in the UPSL, or I had coached in the UPSL. What will happen a lot, guys, is that I've had UPSL teams go up against the likes of the national team or professional outfits and be the better team for the first 30 minutes.
Wow.
And then what ends up happening is they're not on a regimen of training every single day. So what ends up happening is they run out of gas, and then the perception is they're not good enough just because they're not fit enough. Like, again, on multiple occasions, and I could go back to even a time where just a men's league team that I put together because a game had fallen apart with our national team.
Yeah, amazing. Did you handpick those players on that team? Did you put that team together yourself, or how did you end up coaching in the UPSL?
Well, when I initially, when the Cal FC experiment happened, which was even a lower division than the UPSL. I had a group of boys that I was scouting or had scouted from college and or from Sunday leagues. We didn't have a good record because the way it worked for me is we would play the games on Sundays, and when I had selected a group of boys or guys like Richie Menjivar, who I found out in Bakersfield, and he basically showed up with jeans and a T-shirt, and he introduced me to Beto Navarro, who was another player up in Bakersfield. They would show up without a uniform or just with shoes or whatever. And what we would say is, I'd say, well, I don't care. So you're not registered, but play. We'd win the game 8-0. I'd shake hands with the coach after it was over. He said, man, he's got a great team. And I'd say, well, you win on paper because I cheated. I didn't register those 4 guys.
Oh, no.
They just showed up today. So congratulations. And when we went into the Open Cup, looking at our record, you would think we stunk. They were like, oh, we've got these guys. And when we beat them, a lot of people were surprised. I mean, Jason and I were talking on the show yesterday with Christian Ramirez. I was introduced to Christian Ramirez, who's still going at the age of 33, playing in a men's league in a qualifier to try and get into the Open Cup. Those kind of players were just kind of there just lying around, and nobody was really paying attention to him. And now it's great to see someone like Christian, who went the long route through the NASL, ended up having a pretty damn good career.
That's interesting. And you know, I know of other guys who have had similar path. And this is where UPSL comes in. Is it better or worse for a player who's say 19, 20, even 21, 22 years old, who's already kind of past that window of, oh, he's a young player to be developed? Are we in a place where we can still give those players opportunities at a pretty high level? Or is everything sort of streamlined in a way that misses them, a la the group that you had for Cal FC, or the guys you brought to Atlanta?
No,
Because that seems like it's not as easy anymore.
it isn't as easy anymore. And the reason for that is because the academy systems are so overdeveloped now that they want to celebrate their players. They want to be able to say, this is our player. Even though there's somebody better on the outside, the willingness for that group to just welcome that kid into the system isn't there. And we snub our nose to those kids, and we look the other way, and it really becomes a source of frustration for a guy like me. UPSL is great, man. I had such a phenomenal experience. Coaching with the Wolves, obviously, and then we changed ourselves into what was called Invicta, and then eventually becoming a team that participated in NISA. But it was expensive. We had a great family in the Capriatis who put some money into it, and their heartstrings were attached because their son Duncan was involved. But man, it was a great experience. And we went all the way to the national championship out in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is, I guess I can talk about it now. I found out 5 days before the final that several, I won't say their names or anything, but there's 3 or 4 players that couldn't get on an airplane because they would be red flagged, and they would have been they were not legal in our country.
No way. Okay.
Yeah. So we actually tried to drive them all the way to Milwaukee, and obviously it didn't work out. They were too tired, and we lost the game 1-0. And we kind of, in the spirit of all of it, even though we lost the game, we celebrated with them. And I still stayed in contact with one of those players who happened to be German born, who I really tried to help, but as it would be, he ended up getting a job in New York and was getting paid a lot of money, and had a needy girlfriend. And the next thing you know, he's like, maybe I'm just going to stick with my job, but I'm not going to chase this thing. But man, that kid probably could have done it. That's a life decision, and that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But it just proves that those kids are out there, man. They can play.
Yeah. Great stuff from Eric Wynalda. I mean, Chris, Eric Wynalda can tell a story. I could listen to that guy talk all the time about American soccer.
Yeah, this is definitely one of our U.S. soccer in-house experts. So the chat with Eric has been great. And a lot of people don't notice, but Eric actually coached in the UPSL quite a few years ago. So to see him connect with us and tell us about his journey and his coaching journey, he's still doing his thing. But, it's always amazing to hear all the positive words and the role that the UPSL plays for Eric and his teams in the soccer pyramid.
Chris, you and I have already talked about the spring and Soda City's title, but we keep going. Fall is coming. It's almost here. Tell me what's in store for UPSL in the fall.
Yes, sir. So we are now just getting started with our fall season. We've just kicked off in the Northeast and a couple of other conferences. Slowly throughout the rest of this week and the next week, we're going to be kicking off in pretty much every conference around the country. That's going to be California, Midwest, Texas, Florida, Northwest, all over the country. So a lot of exciting stuff to come. Particularly interested to see once again how some of these professional organizations and soccer clubs perform against some of these top level semi-pro teams. I got a couple of favorites that I'm glad to see back. LAFC Academy, Inter Miami Academy. These guys have been long-term in the UPSL for a while now. So to see these guys come back and still believe in the project and to keep, competing in the UPSL is great to see. And we got a couple of newcomers as well. So North Carolina FC is also returning. They're a professional club. And a new surprise, Brooklyn FC, a new club out of the New York area. You may have heard of it. Timmy Weah is a partner in the business, a couple of other high-profile investors. They've actually joined with their second team. So Brooklyn FC 2, brand new professional team, will now be competing in the Northeast in the UPSL as well. So always glad to see the pro clubs coming back and providing a challenge for these semi-pro players.
All right, so lots to look forward to in the fall in UPSL. Imagine that you and I'll be back to recap everything that went down in that season in the very near future. So hopefully people are going to continue to follow along and be part of this part of American soccer, the UPSL.
Yeah, no, I mean, every year every season it seems to get better with the UPSL. I love seeing all the former pros coming back and coaching teams and joining semi-pro teams, and some of these guys are even playing, not just coaching. So, one team I would like to definitely give a shout out for is LA10 out in Los Angeles. That's Alessandro Del Piero's team. We did an episode with him. So to see those guys promoted in their first season from Division 1 to now our premier division is definitely a big thing. And I can't wait to see how those guys perform. A couple of other big names, Valley 559 out of California as well. New York Renegades in the New York area. They're also coming back. I just gave their coach of the season. He had a great season last year, one of the few teams undefeated in the UPSL in the spring, New York Renegades. I also want to shout out Kalanji Pro Profile in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Those guys are always cranking out professional level players. So I expect them to continue doing the great work that they've been doing. And another one of my favorite local teams to the DC area is Virginia Dream. And those guys always putting together a high level team. And we may even see a fan favorite in the DC area, Bill Hamid, former DC United goalkeeper, U.S. men's national team. Seeing him return to the field possibly is great as well. But overall, I'm just overjoyed and excited to see the amount of connection that the UPSL is now getting to the pro game, and to see these guys, like I said, come back and coach and play, and even a few surprises. I was just looking through our registration yesterday, and I saw a name pop up. Jermaine Jones is actually registered to play for the UPSL in the fall season. So
wow.
Yeah, so always new surprises here. Another player I expect to return as well is a good friend of mine out of the Palm Beach area, Edson Brafied, former Dutch national team. Actually, was the starting left back in the 2010 World Cup against Spain. And so Edson, I just talked to him. He is going to be coaching down here in Florida. He's going to be playing a little bit. He's still kind of figuring out what his role is, but these pro guys that just love the game, that can't stay away from the game, they're always looking for teams and ways to stay involved. So you might get a few surprises, but that's the beauty about the UPSL. You don't know who you're going to be playing against or coaching against every weekend. And so, my personal favorite, again, I want to hope that as Alessandro Del Piero makes another appearance in the UPSL, that guy just loves playing, can't stay away from the game. So yeah, I hope to see more new faces, and I can't wait to see who we see on the field.
I think you told me, if I remember, you said something about the women's team, women's game. Come and give me some insight on that there, Chris.
Yeah, no, we are super excited to keep growing this UPSL women's stuff, especially with the academy and growing the boys academy and the girls academy. But the UPSL women's has just been taken off. So Minnesota Aurora, who are out in the Minnesota area, they're a professional team looking to align with a professional league. But in the meantime, why not play in the UPSL? Why not stick your reserve team in the UPSL and kind of get something going for now? So shout out to Minnesota Aurora. That's a woman-owned, woman-led, all-female club out there, providing platforms for those ladies out there in Minnesota. And so I'm excited to see them compete out in our UPSL women's conferences in that area. And I think you're going to see a lot more growth in the UPSL women's division. And I can't wait to keep talking about that. Surprisingly, we even got women's teams out in the Alaska area. So
wow,
the growth is just, it keeps going. So my personal hope is that we get even more women's teams to buy in, more professional level women's teams. And one day, you'll see the UPSL full of NWSL reserve sides, which is honestly the goal.
All right, there you go. I mean, yeah, growing leaps and bounds, all kinds of areas of the game. UPSL continuing to get it done. Again, thanks to Eric Wynalda for talking to us this episode. That's it. UPSL, lots more coming. Stay tuned for the
Keep
fall.
going.
Jason Davis, Chris Korte. We'll see you.
Thank you, guys.